I'm Virginia from Write Clinic, and here with me today is Holly Hagan, who is a freelance medical copywriter, trainer, and coach. She's worked with over 15 ad agencies on more than 60 pharma brands, and this is internationally, so mainly in Canada, but also clients from the US and UK. Thank you so much for joining me today, Holly.
Thanks for having me, Virginia.
It's really a pleasure. I wanted to ask you, what do you do as a freelance medical copywriter, and how did you get into it?
Oh, well, as a freelance medical copywriter, I mainly work on promoting prescription pharmaceuticals for healthcare professional audiences. So we call that HCP instead of saying healthcare professional. I promote products for healthcare professionals. And I got into it. Wow, I think this story is sort of similar to what a lot of medical writers have, where they kind of find themselves doing it and then figure out what it is. So that happened to me as well after grad school. I was just fixated on getting a job as a medical writer, and I just kept applying for the jobs that came up as medical writer. But what I didn't know was that I was getting hired as a medical copywriter at an advertising agency. So when I started there working, it was a bit of a surprise. But what my company actually wanted, they wanted somebody who understood the science behind all of the clinical trials and such. And then they taught me advertising and copywriting on the job.
That's amazing because I think a lot of people worry about not having enough skills or the right skills for the job. So it's really encouraging to hear that you got the training that you needed to do the job, even after you applied and were accepted. So that's really insightful. And I wanted to also ask you, what is your kind of background? So you said after you graduated, so what was your or degree or what did you graduate from? What did you major in or minor in?
Yeah, well, I have an undergraduate degree in biomedical science, and then I went on to do a master's degree in medical science. So after I finished that medical science degree, I hung around the university and worked in some labs and just was applying for these medical copywriting role or these medical writing roles.
Amazing. So, how did you kind of find out about medical writing? Was it someone at university that told you about it, or did you do your own research?
It was somebody at the university. What she was doing for medical writing, she was doing grant writing, she was doing manuscript writing, and she also had a part-time editing job at a local Canadian publisher of journals. So that's when she suggested medical writing to me, she's like, "Oh yeah, there are medical writers." That's sort of where she was coming at it from. So I even went to interview for the medical editing job. But then the interviewer at one point said, "Are you sure you want to go for this job?" Because he was kind of suggesting that it was really an entry level job. And in fact, it paid less than what I was making at the university. So I ended up not going ahead into editing, which I do still think would have been really cool. But I held on a little bit longer and then found the medical copywriting job.
That's really interesting to hear, and I like that. It's so nice to see the honesty of that person to say, "Are you sure you want to go for this? Maybe you should go for this instead." So that's so helpful because it really changed your direction in what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to also ask you, what do you know now that you wish you knew earlier in your career?
Yeah, well, it goes back to that initial conversation is that I didn't know about all of the different types of medical writing. Like when this person mentioned to me, "Oh, you should do medical writing." Like I thought it was sort of this defined box of, grant writing, manuscript writing, and then journal editing, kind of like all in there. I didn't realize that there was so much more, and that I didn't even realize there was the pharmaceutical advertising industry. I didn't know it was a thing. So I sort of wish I knew about those different types at the outset, but at the same time, I really love the path that I took. So
That's really interesting to hear because I think a lot of people do think that medical writing kind of fits in one box, like you said, because they hear of it in a certain context. But there are so many different types.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to ask you, how did you apply for your first jobs? Was it mainly through kind of friend referrals, or was it going on LinkedIn or on job boards? Where did you go to look for those kinds of jobs?
Yeah, well, at that time, the main way that I was aware of was through job boards. And this is like websites like, I don't know if you've heard of them, Workopolis and Monster. They're like from a while ago, but they were kind of like the go-to place. I think it's even before Indeed. So I had a kind of a weekly schedule where every week I would run my search for a medical copy, oh no, for medical writer and see
Mhm.
what came up. And that was on monster.ca is where there was one search result came back. And I didn't even know what half of the qualifications meant, but I was like, I want to be a medical writer. So I sent off my resume and the rest is history.
That's amazing. I think it's also really encouraging because a lot of people think, they don't have the skills. Again, it goes back to having that confidence to just, even in hindsight now, you're thinking, oh, I don't feel like I had enough skills, but you had them all along. You just didn't know how to describe them or match them up to what's on the
Yes.
job description. So how did you end up being a freelance medical copywriter?
Yeah, freelancing. I worked in agencies for maybe 5 or 6 years, and then I had a young family. My second child was about a year old, and I realized that I wanted to be around them more. Just with commuting into work and then working and then coming home, I wasn't seeing my kids that much, and they were so young and I wanted to be around them. So I made the decision to start freelancing. And yeah, it was a really good decision, all in all.
Yeah, I find that's a really good, reason. So a lot of people have their why, and there are other people who want to travel, or like you, they want to spend more time with their family, or even their pets because they feel like they're not spending enough time enjoying their free time, or being in an environment where they're not having to commute. And so it's really nice to hear that you now have that flexibility as a freelance writer. So what does your schedule for the week normally look like?
Yeah, well, right now it is the summer vacation for school kids. So my kids have been out for almost 2 months. So my schedule is different and I really like that I can adapt to that. I will say one thing, I really try to avoid meetings before 10 a.m. and
Mhm.
I don't accept meetings after 3 p.m. So that's really the school hours. So I do my work within the school hours. That also means that I don't work 40-hour weeks. Like I just don't. It's just not practical as a parent, running a household and a business. So I have that ability to set my own schedule and work less than 40 hours, which is really a lot when you
Yeah.
have other things going on.
Yeah, that's so nice to hear. So you really have that flexibility to choose when you want to work, and you can, set your boundaries so that you're spending your time where you want to.
Mhm.
And I also wanted to ask for our audience, where do you mainly find your clients?
Yeah, I find them through LinkedIn. Um, And it got to a point where it was also word of mouth. So, because you mentioned when we were talking before, the industry is small to a
Yeah.
certain extent, and people move around to different agencies. So they knew me from one agency, they go to another one, and then they say, "Oh, well, let's ask Holly if she can help us on this." And so there's a fair bit of that, and then also just people searching on LinkedIn and then approaching me.
That's really great. So you've done so well to build your reputation and build those connections. And, wherever you've been, you've done such good work that people actually recommend you. So that is kind of where you want to get to as a freelance medical copywriter.
Yeah.
And so, the work comes to you rather you having to go to find it after, maybe a couple of years or so of building that reputation. So that's really impressive. And so for our final question, what's next on the horizon for you?
Well, coming up next, or right now, I guess, is I'm enrolling the founding members or the founding students of my self-paced medical copywriting training program. So I've taught the course live a few times this past year, and now I'm launching the self-paced version. So that's what's going on with me right now as the focus. And also in October, I'll be presenting a roundtable discussion on medical copywriting at the American Medical Writers Association annual conference.
Oh, that's amazing. Will you be sharing details of what you discuss at the roundtable? Can people find out more information about what happens there?
Yeah, well, certainly they can go on to the website for the American Medical Writers Conference and see that there. So I will be talking about the roles and responsibilities of the medical writer in promotional um, medical writing.
Amazing. That's really exciting to look forward to. So you have a self-paced course that's coming out on medical copywriting, so you can learn
Mm.
everything from Holly and her experience as a medical copywriter, and then also the AMWA, which is the American Writing Medical Association, the AMWA Roundtable in October. So two really good things to look forward to. So this recording will be released hopefully before that. So if you're watching this right now, then this is 2023. And thank you so much, Holly, for joining me today. And I will see you at the next episode. Bye bye.
Thanks so much. Bye.